Virgin. Bitch. Podcast. Inspiring women to overcome social stereotypes and share unique life experiences without fear of being defiantly different. Your hosts, Christopher and Heather. Let's talk, shall we?
8 years, Heather and I have been asking women their impression and experience with any of the words in our podcast name, Virgin, Beauty, or Bitch. And consistently, Bitch has produced the most provocative quotes. But one quote in particular has remained top of mind with us for 4 years. In fact, it will be an important pillar in a foundation that Heather and I are building in support of women's growth and self-empowerment. But before I share that quote, I want to introduce the woman who gave it to us. She is a licensed therapist, certified sex therapist, hypnotherapist, and certified EMDR practitioner, and also the author of It's Grief, The Dance of Self-Discovery Through Trauma and Loss. Edie Nathan. Welcome back, Edie, to Virgin, Beauty, Bitch.
So the bitch is back, and it's really great to be here. Thank you for inviting me back. And who knew that one sentence, one comment could change the maybe the trajectory of the meaning of your work, or made you really, think through things. And it's kind of like the work we do in life. It can be one view in the room, one pat on the back, one I love you, one bitchy statement that saved your life, that can make all of the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And we are honored to have you back with us. It's our year of the bitch, 2026, year where we are exploring bitch as a path to women's personal growth and self-empowerment through 5 sequential stages: betrayal, identity, trust, change, and healing. B.I.T.C.H. Essentially, we're turning a painful word into a pathway to women's personal growth, which is an idea you encouraged somewhat from your quote in November 2022 when we asked you your connection to the word bitch, and you said this, quote, "I think that we, as women, have to learn how to be a bitch and become really good at it." That line was off the top of your head, but it also came from deep within your heart. And it's a line that can be motivational or misunderstood. Can you help us maybe turn the latter into the former, the misunderstood to the motivated, by sharing your interpretation of those wise words?
I don't know that we've got enough time for this discussion, guys. We're talking about the essence of the feminine, the essence of, and I'm going really deep here, being cave dwellers and having to manage the cave, our queendom, when we were left, and really having to manage much more than just the gathering of food and herbs and being medicine people and our own kinds of shamans. We had to summon that bitch, if you will, for survival. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we're living right now in a world where we may be undermined for having a voice, or for believing that our freedoms are important, or that we must have integrity and we must have identity and we must speak up, otherwise we'll be buried. And so the bitch is not derogatory to me. It's our coming out party, no matter what your gender identification.
Well, you really touched on something that Heather and I are really focused on. When we look at betrayal, it's really instinct to look at our own betrayals in our lives, the things that have betrayed us, the people that have betrayed us. But what you've touched on there is womanhood's betrayal, like all through history, how women have been betrayed by the systems and communities, whatever it might be. I
Oh,
really want to touch on that.
yes, yes. I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I'm so excited. And I just did it. Okay? I just did it. I betrayed myself. Why did I need to apologize? Why, like, if yeah, I stepped on you, and as a guest, I need to honor you, and I need to honor, both of you. And yet, I apologized, and it's that apology. It it's a betrayal. That's a betrayal of a voice. I got excited. I broke in, and somehow it's like as much as I want to come up and be bitch, and I am, and I can be, I can also retreat into small. And how that the betrayal begins with the self.
I think that's something that so many women, especially, can identify with is feeling fierce and stepping into, self assuredness and believing in themselves. But the grooming that has happened, since birth around, don't interrupt, make sure that you're creating space for others, make sure that you're almost following this protocol of preconceived notions of how social interactions should happen. Um, it's I think it's very easy to fall back into, oh my gosh, I'm excited. I'm gonna, jump right in,
Right.
perhaps before, and
That's right. That's
that's important that you're excited and you wanted to get your next thought in. Um,
absolutely.
but the
Absolutely.
grooming is
Yes.
is I think what Christopher spoke towards is it's so it's so deeply embedded, and it's so I want to almost say autopilot
It
for
is.
so many of
Heather,
us.
you got it right. It is autopilot. Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so to have the voice, we're not going to, we're imperfect, right? We're all imperfect, but to be able to take a moment and say, man, I just did it, is what I would love more of us to do, to have, to say, okay, that was a hiccup. Next. And I'm not going to follow it with shame. I'm not going to follow it with self loathing or disgust. These are terms that I'm now using in my new work, because they're uglier in some ways than shame. And we need to get down to the fact that first we need to honor our own bitch, our own integrity, our own identity, our own sense of transcendence, and our ability to morph into more than the messages that were given to us by our primary caretakers, who, for the most part, were women, and who may very well have told us to play it small.
They had to, for pure survival.
That's right.
That has changed somewhat, not all over the world, unfortunately, but
That's right.
in our culture, that has somewhat shifted. I wanted to ask you. You have so much faith, confidence, bravado in your bitch. How did you connect the dots of it being a shameful way to being a powerful woman? What happened? Do you recall that?
I would love to be able to just say there was that moment in time where a metamorphosis occurred, and there was an awakening to the bitch. I think, though, the bitch is a gradual relationship for me, and it it came, really the way that you identify bitch, right? Betrayal, right? Perhaps it is a nonlinear experience, but to think about the ways that I might have betrayed or betray myself, and the ways that I no longer want to, and when the voice begins to to get summoned. I'll never forget what I was very much involved in the theater, and I had a terrible time in junior high and high school. I was teased, I was bullied. It was just ugh. But I went away to go to theater school, actually in high school, and I came back to that high school early, and because I could graduate early, and it was like I anything I could do to just get me out of school. And I auditioned for this play, and the theater teacher who knew me, Greener, said, "Where did you get that voice?" And it was like in that moment, I knew that I had transcended the bullies and the teasing, and I could audition and I could show up with that voice. And I would say that that voice and being able to be in theater saved me in many ways, and in being able to get involved in many different roles as a mask. And when the masking of those roles came down, when I left the theater and I had to find my natural voice that wasn't hidden between the actor, that was another revelation of how am I going to survive? How am I going to have a voice? And who do I want to be?
Such a beautiful bridge into the I of our BITCH, which is identity.
Yes.
And, I think that's, when I hear, a person similar to how we started this conversation, one sentence or one feeling that really took you and opened up a whole new, many more doors for what you wanted to explore about yourself. No longer was it about the bullies or what other people had to say about you. It was about what you wanted to bring to the table in a safer space to try on different roles. um, so when it comes to identity and taking that kind of next leap into, okay, now I'm not what other people call me or tell me that I am. I'm something completely different. What has that process been like for you? Because I also feel like that's not linear, but constantly evolving while still there being almost like a core that is true to you.
So, or this fan. So again, it's nonlinear. So that it's not as if, and I really want your listening audience to hear this. It's not like I don't meet hiccups even now, so many years later, okay? Because I do. And and I go back to feeling voiceless or feeling crushed or feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. But part of the identity, and this is where the work of grief comes in, and actually this new work that I was telling you a little bit about, Invisible No More, when there are traumatic imprints, and we all have them in one way or another to different degrees, but when they're of a predatory nature, or even there's a developmental violation, what happens to that identity is it gets crushed. And we then need to say, I don't even know who I am anymore. And we want to make ourselves invisible. To make ourselves visible is part of the reestablishment of and meeting of our identities. And that's personal, that's social, and that's sexual. And it's a trifecta. And that is what makes up, I believe, our identities. And that's what the traumatic imprints leverage as a way to make one feel small. And I've had those experiences. I was at Oxford and I was in a group, and I know Oxford like I know the back of my hand. I mean, I can walk it, I know it. And I ended up being 10 minutes late to a group presentation, and I cannot tell you how humiliated and how badly I felt. Now, nobody in the audience would have known because I came in with that identity and with that personal, social, and sexual identity. And I said, I feel like Dorothy, and I've gotten lost on on the yellow brick road, and I'm finally found Oz, and here I am. But when I left, I had such self-loathing, and that's what I had to deal with. So I guess I want to say that we can get better, and we can get better and better. And it doesn't mean that our creepy crawlers don't come in and annoy us and hurt us and affect the language of the bitch. And I think that's what set me up for what initially said, we need to know how to be better bitches. And that was not just a message to you, to your audience, but to me too. I'm your audience.
And I hear you say those elements of identity, personal, social, and sexual as a trifecta. And trifecta's got to be one of my favorite words.
Oh,
So
who
I just
knew?
went that word. um, your work, certainly, many avenues of your work, but one being a sex therapist and really putting your sexual identity as a huge piece of the total part of self. Um, I think that, as Christopher alluded to, so much has changed for women in North America, and if we want to call it the West, and things continue to change globally with access to different, thoughts and ways of being and moving. But similar to, again, where we started with grooming, that starts at birth. And despite, a lot of progress that has made around women's identity to their sexual pulse and being comfortable with it and feeling deserving of pleasure and what all of that means. If somebody's listening to this and perhaps this is very new for them and they want to start to understand their sexual identity beyond what, is asked of them from a partner or asked of them of society, but truly stepping into understanding their own sexual identity, what would you say to like help spark curiosity?
Oh, and curiosity is one of my favorite words. So in this new book that's not published and doesn't have a publisher yet, so just saying that, so I'm doing like some teasers. I've created something that I call the Liberation Protocol. And the Liberation Protocol begins with embodied curiosity. And what we as women often deny ourselves is an embodied curiosity about our feeling sense and of aromas and how we explore ourselves, our bodies, our emotions, and we take moments of meaning to meet our body memoirs. Because our bodies hold so many memories. They're good, they're not so good, they're painful, they're joyful. And the exploration of the sexual self is so important. It's so important. And to even, when do we as women, and I think that we do at times, ask the self, what gives me pleasure? Can I give myself that pleasure before I ask anyone to give it to me? Can I give myself permission to take a night and take a bath if you like baths, or take a shower and see what it feels like on the skin to have cold water and warm water, and to put an oil on or not, and to explore language and to explore novels that may pique their interest or their curiosity, and to understand that there is no need for self-loathing in the simplicity of being with their own souls, their sexual souls.
Getting quite misty. That is the shame of it all, Edie, is that women are shamed just to even think of their own pleasure. You are conditioned to understand that your body is for producing a child or for a man's pleasure. So from the day that you learn about sexuality, you have been conditioned not to think about yourself sexually, but as, right, an instrument for others. which is something now you have to overcome. That to me is just another betrayal.
That's right.
So, right?
That's right. That's right. And we've got the lusciousness of our bodies, and our bodies speak to us if we listen. And women who are, within the life cycle of a woman and the ever changing evolution of the body and of the sensory elements of developing and menses and aging and gaining weight or losing weight or childbirth, where the way you knew your body doesn't necessarily exist. And I actually have a term for that. And again, because women don't talk about it, they're just supposed to be so happy that they gave birth. Meanwhile, their vaginas are grieving, because or if they had a C-section, their bodies are grieving because there was pain, and there was sensitivity, and there's angst as much as there is joy. And that's not for every single woman, but I would say a fair amount. I don't have percentages. Certainly with menopause, thankfully the menopause conversation is out there far more. But again, we need to have an embodied curiosity about all the different ways our bodies are changing over time. And because of the environment and because of the relationships that we have, whether they're cisgendered or not, whatever they are, and whatever you have allowed yourself to engage in or with sexually, that's to have an embodied curiosity about how your body and your sexual sensual self feels is a conversation that the bitch needs to have,
I
because
want
it's
to
part
swing
of
that.
identity.
Oops. Yes. I want to swing that back around to something you said earlier, which is this self-loathing. There's just so many elements or times or moments or stages of life or changes of body or changes of circumstance where that self-loathing creeps in full strength. And I am just imagining that self-loathing as almost like a persona meeting the bitch.
Oh. Oh, I would love to hear them have a conversation, because what would the bitch say to self-loathing?
Right? She would have a lot to say, I think.
I
I
think she
think that she
would.
was,
I think she would.
and I don't necessarily think that it would be, our traditional concepts of the bitch that she would just kind of lay into self-loathing and tell it to go fly a kite.
Mm,
I think that, this like feminine, powerful, fierce sense of the bitch that we're talking about in this year of the bitch, if she had a conversation with self-loathing, I think it would be like almost like a sassy aunt who, sees like her niece crying over some boy or something that didn't go right. And it's more of a pick yourself back up, girl, because we got a lot that we want to get done. And I know you got it. I know that you got it. So let's try to change this around.
that's right. That's right. That's right. And to add to that, the sassy bitch might say, "Come on, girl, let's get liberated. Let's not stay in this self-loathing, so that we can then get to self-love, which is really, really hard. That self-love is so hard."
That conversation you both just had, it's something we have not unveiled. However, we've broken bitch down into four different identities, four different characters. So it's not when women are confronted with this word bitch, it is one demon that they see. We're trying to unveil that it's not just one demon character. It is very, very different levels of this word can be identified as. And some of it can be extremely encouraging and loving. We never
No.
think of bitch as loving,
No.
but it is, and it can be. That's what we're trying to bring to the forefront.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The it sounds like an oxymoron, the loving bitch, right? Um, but in a way, it is. It's like the loving bitch is the one that says, stop being fused to the negativity. You're so much more than that.
Yes. Yes.
Loving bitch says, come on, let's get liberated.
Right? And in a way that's like, and we're not backing down from that. We are gonna go. We're going.
Oh, yeah. And she's got to have that hand movement,
Oh
that
yeah,
hand
buckle
movement.
up. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
The bottom line is this individual, this version of bitch, survives in every single person. And women, especially because they're ashamed with that word so much that they avoid it. They have cast it out of their life. They don't want anything to do with it. That means a part of yourself, a part of you, the strongest part of yourself, you've cast aside, which is the biggest shame for us of all, is that you're doing this to yourself because someone has defined a word for you instead of you defining it for yourself.
I like that. Can I use that?
You can use that. We've
Thanks.
used yours. You can use ours.
Little fair exchange. To me, that is the change, Christopher, right? Like that's the change that we're talking about is going from what we believe the word is or the immediate groomed response that we get when we hear it and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If anything, there's I want to say a lot in that bathwater, but that's probably not the right analogy.
Right? That's interesting. Yeah. It's the thing is that it's important to know that the bathwater is there. And and to see the trajectory of where we've been. So as we're growing, as we're nurturing that identity, okay, we're understanding the how we betray ourselves first, that we can begin to see that the complexity of bitch is actually allowing us to foster a greater intimacy with our own identity and self.
You know what I find fascinating about your work and how it ties to ours is that in grief, in fact, you called grief a hero, and we see bitch as a hero as well.
There it
That
is.
connection is powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. I it's funny, was just writing about that, about how grief is a hero, and that we don't think about it as such, but I think of a hero as a teacher, right? And so grief is one of our greatest teachers. And learning how to invite it in and to partner with it rather than pushing it away, which just makes it get louder. And the more we want to ignore it, the louder it gets. And perhaps the louder that our voices become internally, and the more we push them down, we then have the tentacles of the diagnoses: anxiety, depression, OCD, which is more in the brain, but still there can be OCD as a complement to, oh, I've got to push my voice down. Erratic behavior, um, out of control sexual behavior. Just keep the voice down, keep the voice down, keep the voice down. And if we can bring it up, if we can bring up the voice, we're then acknowledging the grief of having had to annihilate the voice. I call it the guillotine effect. Our heads get cut off. We're walking around with our head. Our bodies are cut off from our feelings, and we're just completely disconnected. And the goal is to become in sync.
Love that analogy because I think that's what we do to human beings is all we want you is from the head up. Okay. We don't want you feeling anything. Okay. We just want you thinking the way
Mhm.
that we want you to think.
That's
So
exactly right.
leave the head behind. The body can, do what it can do what it at once, but
It is so true, and the greatest example that I can give is a very public figure, Simone Biles at the Japan Olympics, and she had something called the twisties. Now the twisties within their world, it's a word, it's an idea, theory that's in their world where you really can't find the right place to land. And she was this star of an athlete, amazing athlete, could not find her place to land. But what no one was talking about was she was getting all these accolades and accolades, but what had preceded that were she was very much engaged in the trials against the man who had abused her for multiple times. And they still had an expectation that her performance should be stellar, and no one was talking about it. Want to talk about a silenced voice? Want to talk about really like it was like suppress, suppress, suppress. It's got to come out somewhere. And that's where there was the twisties. Her body and mind were not in sync. But now her bitch is out, and I love listening to her, hearing her speak, and she's quite the advocate. And that's her bitch, and I love it. And thank you, Simone Biles, for that.
I was gonna say, she took that time to reflect on what she needed. She took a break from the sport she loved, and she honed in on what she wanted and who she is and how she wanted to move forward. So I applaud her in a world where, it's been an uphill battle for athletes to come out about abuse, and the bravery of so many athletes to come forward to make that change, and to call to account
Yes.
people who are in powerful positions that can either advance you forward or not. It's huge. I think her story is just such a powerful story.
Oh,
I take my hat off to her 10 billion
that's
times.
right. And she has opened the doors for the women of our time in this moment in time to have voices. We don't need to bring up any names, but to have voices and to tap into their bitch of freedom and of the right of being able to have a voice around something that has been secreted away.
Edie, this has been, I don't even know I can find the right word to express our gratitude for you, what you believe, and how you express it. It really has shaped, I've said this before, it has shaped Heather and I in the direction that we are going in. And it was just one comment that started this cavalcade of momentum around this word and what it can mean to women in general, no matter where you are, who you are, what culture, and what doesn't matter your situation, but is to focus on a part of yourself that the world tells you is of no value. And if we can change that mindset, if we can allow even one woman to look in the mirror and see herself differently and pull out from herself that strength, oh, this is amazing. This is
Now you
amazing.
made me tear up. Whatever I can do, and I'm saying this to your audience to support you in this journey, I am 100% on board. I thank you for your work and for getting these messages out to the very people who who need to know that their bitch is allowed and welcome at any time. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'd love to end kind of where we started, in that, the quote of, let's just say, inviting a world where women hear this sentence and think of it differently, that, we have a lot to gain from being better bitches. So to our listeners, if that stirs something in you, we hope that it does, because it is, it's a controversial word that we are unpacking and reimagining and evolving. So we would love to hear from you on how you're connecting with this work. But Edie, thank you so much for everything you bring to the table. It really is, it's like a North Star for a lot of what Christopher and I are working on. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you. I so appreciate your work and being here, and just keep the conversation going and be the best bitch you can be.
And if we can make a future date with you on when your book comes out, that we are able to share that with you and
Thank
share
you.
that with our audience. We're definitely want to be top of that list when you get that completed.
Thank you so much. And just right now, everyone, the working title is Invisible No More. Liberate the self from traumatic wounds and dare to live.
Dare to live, dare to be a bitch. Thank you so much, Edie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And this is all coming to you from
The Virgin
Beauty.
and the best bitch being created in the B.I.T.C.H year 2026.
And that bitch could be you. Come on back. Find us, like us, share us. Come on back. Thank you so much. Wow.